G'day again. I don't know if you can hear me. I've got the fan going because I got some water on my hair. I just had a shower to get the stress chemicals off, because apparently when we're stressed we release stress chemicals, and if you're sitting in that soup too long, there's potential it can get worse. Plus there's it can be picked up by others. So and I do feel better, and actually the hot water actually helps with my muscles. So because they, if I'm stressed, they get tight. Well, I mean, there's other things that do that, like cold and so on. But yeah, that started when I went on painkillers when I was very young, and they're actually meant to reduce the tightness in the muscles and therefore the pain, but it didn't work that way, and I didn't know. But anyway, I mean, like, the results tell you that but I didn't figure it out for a long time. But yeah, I wanted to share some things, if anyone's interested. Probably a lot of people on here already know about it, but the first thing that comes to mind is Masuro Emoto's water experiments. And I do understand those who will say, or I won't say will say, but have said, that they're not legit because they've not been repeated thousands of times by like a large group and studied extensively. There's questions about the method and so on, but because of the results he got and the implications, people extended that to rice experiments, sandwich experiments, and experiments with plants, and I just wanted to touch on them all quickly. One of them, okay, so the first one, Masuro Emoto was looking at water from different sources, and water under different conditions, and the conditions were of a kind of a spiritual nature. No, okay, well, regardless of how it sounds, I'm going to just explain it. So he would take samples from, if he was looking at the variables of spiritual nature, it would be samples from the same source, and they would be under the same conditions, like the same vessel and so on. I think it was basically just a little slide, and it would freeze the water. I believe before that they were prayed over or spoken to. Sometimes they would just put words on like a label on the vessel, I think a jar or something, individually, and there would be 3 conditions. They'd be love, hate, and neglect, basically. So they would have, say, a label that has all these lovely things said about the water to it. There would be a label saying horrible things, and then there would be one that, I guess it didn't say anything. I don't know exactly how they did that one. Or it would be speaking to it verbally, saying lovely things or saying horrible things, or neglecting it. Or it would be praying, sending the intention to it, loving, kind, compassionate, versus, hateful and so on, and then neglecting it. And then, yeah, so he'd freeze them, and the ones that had the beautiful, kind, loving expressions emitted towards them, whether it was writing words or prayers, those crystals, water, well, I mean, it's ice, I guess, but kind of like how snow forms structures. Each one's individual, apparently. But anyway, these would form beautiful, strong structures that were, how do you explain this? Kind of, I'd say, you know how mandalas are like all the same all the way around? Like there's a consistency all the way around. And like sea urchins and starfish, they're, you know, if they're healthy, generally kind of the same all the way around. Each segment is the same. Whereas you said if he said or prayed or whatever hateful intentions or thoughts or words, labels and so on, those structures would be very weak, lopsided, looking disintegrated. I think there were sometimes some funny colours, like off kind of colours. Don't quote me on that part though, that's just something I observed. And then the neglected ones would be even worse. So, as many times as he repeated it, I don't know how many times he repeated it, that would consistently happen. I don't know of any instances where it didn't happen that way, and I don't know if that would have happened if it would have been shared. But I think because the other experiments were done by other people and they're all getting the same results, it kind of tells me there's enough of a pattern there to indicate it's worth looking into deeper, and people did. So then with the rice experiments, they'd do the same thing. They'd have like rice all made together, the same batch of rice, so you know it's as consistent as it can be, you know. And they'd put them in 3 jars and then have the label on them, you know, love, hate, and neglect, or maybe nothing for the neglect one, no word or something. I don't know. I mean, that might change the conditions if they don't put a word there. And yeah, the rice that was neglected would rot really fast. The rice that was hated would rot a little bit, well, a lot, but not as fast as the neglected one. And then the one with the loving intentions would, or the label would, it would decay still, but it was, I mean, because it's naturally, if it's got water in it, it's naturally going to, but, and oxygen and everything, but much less, you know. And then people did the same with sandwiches, and the same thing happened. And people did the same thing with plants, and again the same thing happened. Like the ones that were neglected would generally die. The ones that were hated would be, by the end of the experiment, pretty bad shape, and you can bring them back. Sandwiches and rice, I don't think so, but I mean, you never know. Water can heal, but yeah, I mean, I personally think everything can, but anyway, I'll go to that. But yeah, and with the plant that was you know, loved on and talked to, they would, it depends what the conditions were that they were using, but whether it was a word or like a written word, or they're talking to it, or praying, or, you know, tending to it, you know, whatever it was. I mean, you'd want to, if you're going to tend to one, you would be probably, that would change the conditions, I think, if you're not tending to them all to the same extent. I guess they'd probably have to leave them alone to keep the conditions the same, like have them in the same sunlight and the same water and so on, or maybe have it on a timer or something. But it was about the human part of the interaction. And they've done an experiment where with random number generators, and found that human beings can, with their mind, cause the random number generator to go in the direction of ones or zeros that are statistically, it couldn't happen on its own. It could only, it just would never occur if it was left alone. And then again, the same with prayer, meditation, things like that. They've been looked into, but of course, there's a reason they're not so deeply looked into by the scientific communities and those that invest in them and so on, where the money comes from, universities.